What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're working on my Tacoma, and more specifically we're doing a headlight restoration and a tint. So you can see the passenger side is currently finished up. If we take a look at this driver's side, whatever coating is on this headlight is starting to peel, and you can see that line running right through the middle. So I've done headlight restorations before. I did this on my Lotus Evora and my Z. Today's project is really not all that hard, so let's get into it. So with the grill out of the way, I found out on the other side that it gave me a lot more access to the inner side of this headlight here. And so from here, it's gonna be about an hour process. I'm gonna start off with 1500 grit sandpaper. Now, just depending on how thick the coating is on your headlight, on my Lotus Evora and my 350Z, I had to start off with 400 grit. So very, very rough in order to get that texture off. Now these headlights are only around 2 years old, so it is a little bit disappointing to see them peeling, but at the same time too, it's gonna make this process a lot easier because this really isn't caked on there that much. So that's why I'm starting off with 1500. From my experience, I would start off with a finer sandpaper, and only then, if you don't see it coming off, you can start going to more grit. So that's going lower to 1000, 500, 400, somewhere around there. We are wet sanding this headlight, so I'm gonna keep it wet on here using that damp rag. I'm gonna dip my sandpaper in a bucket of water that I have a few times just to keep that going. And from there, we're gonna see this line here start to go all the way down to the bottom. It's going to start to fog up just a little bit. That's where the buffing comes in afterwards. So I would say I'm about halfway through this light. You can see I still have a little bit more on this lower edge on the inner corner. But while I'm doing this, I also wanted to talk about the grits. As I mentioned earlier, I'm using 1500. Now I could use 400, I could have started there, but at the same time, you wanna sand this layer off without damaging the headlight more than you have to bring it back to life, because obviously from the sandpaper, you're going to scratch this up, which means you need to polish it, use the buffer to bring it back to life. So if you go for 400, that just means you're going to have to do more steps in order to get it back to normal. So with the 1500 here, I won't have to do as many steps, and it seems to be doing a great job. So dunking it in a little bit more water, and it's a lot of elbow grease, but it is going much smoother the second time around. Once I wipe this off, I've been using a wet rag and a dry rag too, so that way I can see where the remnants are of that film. I'm not sure if the camera's gonna pick this up, but I pretty much have this whole section gone here. I need to work this lower area. I haven't made it to the side yet, but I have basically this area here that I'm gonna focus on next. So it's been about an hour of elbow grease getting this headlight to look like this. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you're starting off with around 400, you're going to need to work your way all the way up to 1500, 2000. Just like I did here, I was using 1500 and 2000. So you have a few steps to do before that if you're starting from 400, working your way all the way up. So you can see it's pretty hazy right now on the headlight from all the sanding. Next up, we need to go ahead and buff it. So we have our buffer along with 3 different compounds, starting with aggressive all the way up to our polish, which is going to be our finishing stage. So that way, step by step, we can bring out the shine on this headlight. As you can tell, it's all scratched up from the sanding. So we have our most aggressive compound on the buffer right now, and you can see Brian is just working its way around the headlight. So that way we just get good coverage surrounding all of it. And now we're gonna start on is it plugged in? Should probably plug it in. All right, it's plugged in now. So that's our first pass. We're gonna use the waterless wash just to clean it up. And hopefully you can see, we can actually see the headlights and the high beams there. It's getting a little bit more clear. The camera might not be able to focus now from here on out just because it might look similar, but we're gonna keep doing that, move on to our next 2 compounds.
It's already way different than the scratched up look.
Oh yeah.
I mean, hopefully they can...
I'm sure the camera can see that.
Oh yeah.
Now that that is looking good, we're gonna move on to our middle compound here. This is our wax.
In between. It's kind of a scratch remover. the scratch remover compound does pretty good.
Yep, and then from there the polish will be next. But like I said, you may not be able to see this on camera once we go past these steps. So we're just gonna keep repeating this until it looks good. And with the final stage done, that was the wax. We're gonna clean it one more time. And this is going to pretty much look like a brand new headlight. So the reason that we're putting the tint on it now is just to better protect it now that we have it completely cleaned. And you can see the before there, and then a quick look at the after, since I really haven't shown that yet. I definitely love the new look.
It definitely buffed out back to perfect.
Oh yeah.
So you did a good job sanding it without scratching it, which is good.
That's good, as that took a lot of time. But I'll also have the tint down in the description below because I'm gonna put this on my R8, as you'll see later in this video.
Yeah, you did a good job getting rid of that crappy coating.
Very good.
Gone, clean, buff.
Feel accomplished. Now it's time to tint. And so before we lose daylight for today, let's just take a quick look at the headlights and now the fog lights. I love how they match. I wasn't anticipating on doing the fog lights or the ones up on the hood. Last minute, I decided to do that. I'm gonna get some more shots for you guys tomorrow, so that way you can really see. But I have completely changed the front end look, blacking all of these lights out. I think they look so good. And the light smoke is definitely going to be very visible for at nighttime. I'm driving home tonight and I will let you guys know tomorrow. But yeah, the new front end of the Tacoma is coming together very nicely. All right, so it's a brand new day, and now that we have the sunlight on the truck, you guys can really see the new front end look for this. And honestly, I am really digging it. I've been able to drive at night as well, and even with the film on top, the light smoke, it didn't really affect the light output. So I was easily able to see during the dark, which is of course the #1 safety factor when you're putting tint on. So you can still get a really good look and have that visibility. And the main reason that I bring that up is because we're gonna jump over to my R8, where I did decide to put the darker film on. And as you can tell, you can't even see the inside of the housing, and this doesn't really have that good of a texture to it. So I went ahead and decided to do the other side with the light smoke that I put on the truck, and I am really liking it. It definitely gives it more of a classy look for this car. You can see R8, you can see the entire inside of the housing there, and personally, I think it looks really good. So if you're on the fence between the smoke and the dark, definitely go with the smoke, because you're going to get the best of both worlds with giving it a really good look and also giving you the light output that you need when you drive at night. So in tinting my headlights, this turned into a big project. I did the fog lights, the ditch lights. I want to do the taillights on my truck, the lights in the bumper, and of course finish up the R8. So let's go ahead and finish up the R8, and then we'll get back to the truck. So it's been a couple hours now. I have the R8 all finished up, and even looking at the taillights now, I really like how you can see the inside of the housing. And again, it just gives it a really clean look. So the R8 is completely done. Now we're on to the back side of the Tacoma. So I already went ahead and tinted the lights in the bumper here. Those are pretty easy. I just took the cap off, and I was actually able to wrap the entire plastic and then put them back on. So you won't see that at all. All of the edges are covered. And now we're gonna move on to my taillights. So as you can tell, these are not the factory taillights, and this is the side that I already went ahead and tinted. Now in doing this, this was actually very, very difficult. So I'm leaving this portion, and this portion alone. And what I did was just cut out those squares. So I wrapped the entire piece in one. And so I think that's kind of neat. A little bit of a two-tone design there, but it's going to be really hard to get those insides there. So you can see what it looks like after, and here's the before. So of course every taillight is going to be different. These are much different than the stock ones with all of these different levels in it. Let's go ahead and get this knocked down. that's gonna wrap up today's video, tinting both of the vehicles, mainly the Tacoma, and how to restore that headlight. But it turned into a full tint job, and I really like this design. Even though that middle portion there is untinted, I don't think it really matters. It gives it a really cool kind of two-tone look, and from a distance you can't even really tell. So that is the new rear end for the Tacoma with the lights down below. I think it looks really good. Here's a rear view of the R8. That looks good as well. So the light smoke is something that I personally would recommend. It gives your vehicle a really cool look, being a little bit subtle at the same time too, but the lights will still shine through it. So I think that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Give it a huge thumbs up. Consider smashing that subscribe button if you'd like to stay up to date on our daily uploads. We'll see you guys in the next video.